Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schumer,
No.
Mr. Sessions, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Snow, Ms. Snow, Ms. Stabenow, Mr. Tester, Mr. Thune, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Udall of Colorado, Mr. Udall of New Mexico, Mr. Vitter, Mr. Warner, Mr. Webb, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative: Bennett, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Cantwell, Carper, Casey, Cochran, Collins, Conrad, Durbin, Feinstein, Franken, Gillibrand, Hagan, Harkin, Hoeven, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Klobuchar, Cole, Landrieu, Lautenberg, Leahy, Levin, Lieberman, Manchin, Merkley, Mikulski, Murray, Nelson of Nebraska, Nelson of Florida, Pryor, Reed of Rhode Island, Reed of Nevada, Roberts, Rockefeller, Sanders, Schumer, Shaheen, Snow, Stabenow, Tester, Warner, Webb, Whitehouse, Wyden. Mr. Cardin, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Alexander, Ayotte, Barrasso, Bozeman, Burr, Chambliss, Coates, Coburn, Corker, Cornyn, Crapo, DeMint, Enzi, Graham, Hatch, Heller, Hutchison, Inhofe, Isaacson, Johans, Johnson of Wisconsin, Kyle, Lee, McCain, Paul, Risch, Rubio, Sessions, Shelby, Thune, Toomey. Mr. Begich, aye. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Vitter, no. Mr. Udall of Colorado, aye. Mr. Udall of New Mexico, aye. Mr. McConnell, no. Mr. Baucus, aye. Mr. Coons, aye. Mr. Inouye, aye. Mr. Akaka, aye. Mr. Wicker, no. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Blunt, aye. Mr. Brown of Ohio. Mr. Brown of Ohio, aye. Mrs. McCaskill. Mrs. McCaskill, aye. Mr. Portman. Mr. Portman, no. Mr. Lugar. Mr. Lugar, no. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Menendez, aye. Ms. Murkowski. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Grassley, no. Change their vote. Seeing none, on this vote, the yeas are 62, the nays are 37. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to.
Mr. President, I move for reconsideration and ask the motion be laid on the table.
Without objection, so ordered.
I thank the chair. I thank my colleagues. We had a kind of an existential vote at the beginning, which we didn't expect. It's always good to survive terminal action, and now we can proceed.
Not in that session, Mr. President.
The Senate will be in order.
Now,
the Senate will be in order.
We have 39 amendments pending. I hope we can proceed expeditiously. I hope some of our colleagues will agree to voice votes. Several of these, Senator Collins, Carper, Scott Brown, and I agreed on, and we're prepared to accept them. So I hope our colleagues will allow us to do that by consent. But now we can proceed with the First Amendment.
Withdrawn.
Okay. You don't have to call her up then.
Call up my amendment number 2056 and ask consent that it be modified with the changes that are at the desk.
Is there objection? Without objection, the amendment as modified will be reported by the clerk.
The Senator from Montana, Mr. Tester, for himself and others, proposes an amendment number 2056.
Mr. President, I ask that further reading be dispensed with.
Is there objection? Without objection,
Mr. President, amendment number 2056 simply requires the post office to consider some pretty basic things, like whether there's economic savings when it comes to the closure of a post office or a mail processing center. It also requires...
The Senator will suspend. There will be 2 minutes of debate on each side, equally divided. Forgive me, there will be 2 minutes of debate on the motion, equally divided. The Senator from Montana.
Mr. President, I'll start over. Amendment 2056 requires the post office to take in some pretty common sense things, like consider things like economic savings before they are to shut down a post office or mail processing center. It also requires the Postal Service to take into account retail service standards. That means the Postal Service would not be able to leave a community without access to basic postal services when it closes down a post office. Now, if the Postal Service does not meet these criteria, the Postal Regulatory Commission can review and reject the Postal Service's proposal. This amendment adds some much-needed teeth to an amendment that Senator Moran and I offered when this bill was before committee. I'm joined by a number of co-sponsors, and I would like to cede the remainder of my time to Senator Levin. He is not here. I'll take the remainder then. This is a common-sense amendment that allows a lot of the post offices that are going to be closed to have another set of eyes, the Postal Regulatory Commission, take another look. With that, I yield the floor.
The Senate will be in order. The Senator from Connecticut.
Mr. President, I support Senator Tester's amendment. It simply creates safeguards to ensure that the post office, when it closes, the Postal Service, when it closes a post office, does so as the result of a process that is transparent and takes into account the unique needs of communities, particularly small towns and rural areas. This does not stop the decision-making process at the Postal Service to change the Postal Service. It makes it transparent and fair. Mr. President, if I may at this time, I would ask unanimous consent that if a voice vote is requested and acceptable for any of the amendments relative to the postal reform bill, including this one, that the 60-vote affirmative vote requirement be waived for that amendment.
Is there objection? Without objection.
While I'm on it, I want to note for the benefit of our colleagues that on the list of 39 amendments, the first amendment was Senator McCain's amendment number 2001. He did not call it up, and therefore, which is an expression of his intention not to go forward with it, and I thank him for that, and I hope it sets a precedent that other of the sponsors of amendments will feel moved to follow. Thank you, Senator McCain.
President.
The Senator from Maine.
Mr. President, I too support the amendment offered by Senator Tester and Senator Levin. It simply makes clear that the Postal Regulatory Commission may review an appeal of a post office closure if it violates either the overnight delivery service standard or the retail service standard that are created by our bill. So I urge support for the amendment.
The question is on Amendment 2056 as modified. The Senator from Connecticut.
Mr. President, I move the amendment and ask for a voice vote.
Is there objection? Without objection? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The amendment as modified is agreed to.
Mr. President, I'd move for reconsideration and lay that motion on the table.
Without objection?
Mr. President, I call up Amendment 2060.
Clerk will report. Senate will be in order.
The Senator from Oklahoma, Mr. Coburn, proposes amendment number 2060.
I ask unanimous consent it be considered as read.
Without objection.
This is a straightforward amendment on conferences. We've all seen what has occurred with the GSA conference. This is all about transparency and creating a system where we're actually getting to see what is spent on conferences. There's not one branch of the federal government that does not have teleconferencing available, video conferencing available. What we do know from 2000 to 2006 that the federal government, that's the last time we have records, spent over $2.2 billion on conferences. We know the travel budget is $15 billion a year and at a minimum $500 million a year spent on conferences. At a time when we need to have less, and they've grown remarkably during the Bush administration as well as this administration, this is just a simple good government transparency where we have them put it on a website, what they're doing, why they're doing it. We limit foreign conference travel to 50. We limit the maximum amount to 500,000 unless they can make an exception for that based on cause and reason. So it's simply a good government program to get some visibility on what we're spending on conferences, and I'd ask for a voice vote on this.
The Senator from Maine.
Mr. President, I strongly support this amendment. I want to commend the Senator from Oklahoma for offering an amendment that would prohibit the kind of lavish spending on federal conferences that we've seen recently at GSA. So this is an excellent amendment. It will save money, provide more transparency, and put a cap on how much can be spent. I urge adoption of the amendment.
Mr. President,
the Senator from Connecticut.
I thank the Chair. I also support the amendment, and I thank Senator Coburn for introducing it. This is disclosure and limitation of spending on conferences. Unfortunately, the excessive, really outrageous spending by GSA on the conference in Las Vegas has brought the whole area of spending, federal spending on conferences, into the public Klieg-lights. And I've reached a conclusion that we're spending too much. This amendment would require the posting of all agency conference spending online. It limits the amount that can be spent on conferences. It limits the number of conferences agency employees can attend, and it imposes a 20% across-the-board cut on agency budgets for this purpose. I hope the amendment passes. I hope the bill passes as amended. There are a couple of parts of this that we've begun to work with Senator Coburn and his staff on, which I think can make this a better amendment. But bottom line, this responds to a need, and I support it.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Delaware.
I'll just briefly add my support to this amendment. I'm happy that Senator Coburn has offered it. We'll have a chance to debate it and vote on it. I hope it's accepted on a voice vote. Let me just say we brought to the floor a bill that has been brought together by 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. We have just had a vote on whether or not to waive a budget point of order to give us a chance to air the bill, offer amendments, and look, see what we can agree on the end. Bipartisan vote. And we have the opportunity here early in the back and forth on amendments to vote not just for Democrat amendments, but Republican amendments as well. My hope at the end of the day, we'll adopt some of both. And at the end of the day, hopefully, when we get to the end of tomorrow, we'll be able to say we passed a bill with bipartisan support, and this could be a good step in that direction. I urge you.
All time has expired. The question is on Coburn, the amendment number 2060. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The amendment is agreed to.
I have unanimous.
What's next, baby boy?
The Senator from Michigan.
That a statement of mine supporting the Tester amendment be inserted in the record immediately prior to the vote, the voice vote on the Tester amendment 2056.
Without objection. The Senator from Arizona.
I call up Amendment 2033 and ask for a...
Clerk will report.
The senator from Arizona, Mr. McCain, proposes amendment number 2033.
Without objection.
Mr. President, this amendment would establish a commission on postal reorganization, basically a BRAC. It's the same thing that we have done in the case of military bases. For many years, we were unable to close a single one. This would establish a commission on postal reorganization. They would come out with their findings and recommendations, and the Congress would vote up or down. Recently, the Government Accountability Office released a report just this month entitled Challenges Related to Restructuring the Postal Service's Retail Network, which supports this BRAC-like policy process. And it goes on to say that this commission could broaden the current focus on individual facility closures, which are often contentious, time-consuming, and inefficient, to a broader network-wide restructuring similar to the BRAC approach. This obviously is an admission that we are unable to take these tough decisions ourselves, but it has proven successful in the BRAC process, and I think it will in this case. I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered. The senator from Connecticut.
Mr. President, I rise to oppose the amendment. This amendment would create a commission similar to the Base Closure Commission to oversee Postal Service decisions regarding which post offices, processing plants, and district offices to close or consolidate. In this bill, we have constructed what I think is a clear and fair system for making exactly those decisions. The language in the bill is not status quo language. If this bill is enacted, there are post offices that will be closed or consolidated. There are mail processing facilities that will be closed. That simply has to happen, but it'll happen according to a system of due process that gives most heed to the fiscal crisis of the Postal Service. In other words, I think we've got a congressional answer to this problem. We don't have to yield it to another BRAC commission. I urge opposition to the amendment.
All time has expired. The question is on McCain Amendment number 2033. The yeas and nays have been ordered. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander.
One vote yes.
Ms. Ayotte. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Baucus. Mr. Beckidge. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bingaman. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Bozeman. Mrs. Boxer. Mr. Brown in Massachusetts. Mr. Brown of Ohio. Mr. Burr. Ms. Cantwell. Mr. Cardin. Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Coates. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. Mr. Coons. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Dement. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Enzi. Mrs. Feinstein. Mr. Franken. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mrs. Hagan. Mr. Harkin. Mr. Hatch. Mr. Heller. Mr. Hoven. Mrs. Hutchison. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inouye. Mr. Isaacson. Thank you. Mr. Johans. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota. Mr. Carey. Mr. Kirk. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Cole. Mr. Kyle. Ms. Landrieu. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Lee. Mr. Levin. Mr. Lieberman. Mr. Lugar. Mr. Manchin. Mr. McCain. Mrs. McCaskill. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Menendez.
We're doing all right so far. They were on number 4 already. That's something.
Mr. Merkley. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Moran. Ms. Murkowski. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Mr. Paul. Mr. Portman. Mr. Pryor. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Risch. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rockefeller. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Sessions. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Shelby. Ms. Snow. Ms. Stabenow. Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Udall, Colorado. Mr. Udall, New Mexico. Mr. Vitter. Mr. Warner. Mr. Webb. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Rockefeller. Senators voting in the affirmative: Alexander, Blunt, Burr, Chambliss, Coates, Coburn, Cornyn, Crapo, DeMint, Graham, Hutchison, Inhofe, Isaacson, Johans, Johnson of Wisconsin, Kyle, Lugar, McCain, McConnell, Paul, Portman, Shelby, Vitter, and Wicker. Mrs. Murray. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Sessions, aye. Mr. Toomey, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Akaka, Ayotte, Baucus, Bekich, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Brown of Ohio, Cantwell, Cardin, Carper, Casey, Cochran, Collins, Conrad, Corker, Durbin, Enzi, Feinstein, Franken, Gillibrand, Grassley, Hagan, Heller, Hoven, Inouye, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Klobuchar, Cole, Landrieu, Lautenberg, Leahy, Levin, Lieberman, Manchin, McCaskill, Menendez, Merkley, Mikulski, Moran, Murray, Nelson, Nebraska, Nelson of Florida, Pryor, Reed of Rhode Island, Rockefeller, Sanders, Shaheen, Stabenow, Tester, Udall of Colorado, Udall of New Mexico, Warner, Webb, and Wyden. Mr. Roberts, no. Mr. Lee, aye. Ms. Murkowski, no. Mr. Bennett, no. Where's that name? No, I do not have White House. He's back there now. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Mr. Risch, aye. Mr. Coons, no. Mr. Harkin, no. Ms. Snow, no. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Rubio, aye. Mr. Barrasso, no. Mr. Thune, no. Mr. Hatch, aye. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Reed of Nevada, no.
Got a little research. Are there any senators wishing to vote or to change their vote? Seeing none. On this vote, the yeas are 30 and the nays 69.
Correct.
Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to. The senator from Oregon.
Mr. President, on behalf of Senator Feinstein, Senator Cantwell, other colleagues, and myself, I call up Amendment 2020 and ask consent that it be modified with the changes that are at the desk.
Is there objection? Without objection. Clerk will report the amendment as modified.
The Senator from Oregon, Mr. Wyden, for himself and others, proposes an amendment number 2020.
Under the previous order, there will now be 2 minutes of debate equally divided prior to a vote on the Wyden-Feinstein amendment number 2020 as amended.
Mr. President and colleagues, this amendment is for the more than 25 million Americans, more than 800,000 of them serving in the military.
The Senate will be in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is for the millions of Americans, more than 800,000 of them, who serve in the military and vote by mail in our system of government, the most open and free system of government in the world. Mr. President, those millions of Americans may vote absentee. They may vote in what's called no excuse absentee, or they may vote in an all-mail election, but they deserve this fall to have the assurance from the United States Senate that as we reform the Postal Service, the election will not be disrupted. I hope my colleagues will support this. I think it's been discussed at length with both sides of the aisle. It's always been bipartisan to try to expand the franchise. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the floor and would hope that we could pass this on a voice vote. And I want to thank both Chairman Lieberman and Senator Collins, who've had a real challenge handling all these amendments, and they've been very gracious, both of them, as always.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Connecticut.
Mr. President, I rise to support the amendment, and I thank Senator Wyden and those who worked with him on this amendment, frankly, for calling our attention to this important matter and working to ensure that our efforts to salvage the United States Postal Service, to change it, to keep it alive, do not come at the expense of our critical efforts to ensure access to the voting booth by mail, and also no excuse absentee voting programs that rely heavily on dependable mail service. So that I support the amendment, and if there's no further debate, I'd move that we adopt the amendment by voice vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Amendment number 2020, as modified, is agreed to.
Mr. President, I move for reconsideration and ask that we lay the motion on the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Oklahoma.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to modify amendment number 2058 with the changes at the desk and call it up.
Is there objection? Without objection, clerk will report the amendment as modified.
The Senator from Oklahoma, Mr. Coburn, proposes amendment number 2058 as modified.
Under the previous Senate will be in order. Under the previous order, there will be 2 minutes of debate equally divided prior to a vote on Amendment 2058 offered by the Senator from Oklahoma. Mr. Coburn, as modified.
This is a straightforward amendment. It modifies the new service requirement to encourage co-location in other businesses. One of the things that's going to happen to the Postal Service where they can't, 85% of them are losing money, are post offices. So what we can do is keep service but have it at a different location for much lower cost, and all this amendment does is encourage the Postmaster General to consider that as part of the service standard in meeting that requirement.
The Senator from Maine.
Mr. President, this amendment by the Senator from Oklahoma is right in line with the bill. We do encourage the Postal Service to look at co-location, for example, in a local pharmacy or a grocery store. In many small communities, that may well be a viable option, and it may well improve customer access. So I think this is a very good amendment that is in line with other language already in the bill. I would urge its adoption by a voice vote.
Senator from Delaware.
This is another good amendment offered by the Senator. What the Postmaster General has in mind for our communities across America where there are 33,000 post offices, and is to give a number of them an option, to say, like a menu, if you will, whether or not it makes sense in those communities to shorten somewhat the length of time that the post office is open in a day, from maybe to 6 or 4 hours a day, whether to use to co-locate in a supermarket maybe, or in a convenience store, or to, in some cases, to say, you know, state and local government operations in those communities, why don't we put them under the same roof? Why doesn't that make sense? And frankly, all those ideas may make sense. And the idea is not to tell a community which of those options they have to choose, but to say this is the menu, and this is one of the great options that should be on the menu. I commend the gentleman for offering the amendment. Urge a yes vote.
If there's no further debate on the amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The amendment number 2058 as modified is agreed to.
Mr. President,
Senator from Connecticut.
I'd ask that I move for reconsideration and ask that the motion be laid on the table.
Without objection.
I thank the Chair. Mr. President, I want to ask consent that the next amendment on the list, the so-called McCaskill-Merkley amendment, be dropped a few places down, because we're working on some compromise legislation that we hope will lead to a voice vote of acceptance.
Is there objection? Without objection.
And that would mean that Senator Coburn's next amendment, which is number 2061, is now the pending business.
Can I see the chair while we move?
Maybe supposed to be in the chair.
Enjoy. Do you need anything? Can I get you?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. President, Madam President,
The Senator from Oklahoma.
I ask unanimous consent to modify amendment number 2061 with the changes at the desk, and ask that it be brought up.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will report.
It's at the desk. Dan Lips has got it.
The modifications at the desk. Will report the amendment as modified. The Senator from Oklahoma, Mr. Coburn, proposes amendment number 2061 as modified.
I ask unanimous consent that the amendment be considered as read.
Without objection. This order, there will be 2 minutes of debate equally divided prior to a vote on amendment number 2061 offered by the Senator from Oklahoma as modified.
Madam President, this is an amendment we've changed somewhat from the original versions to address some of the concerns. What this amendment does is 2 years from now will give the authority to the postmaster to create a retirement requirement with postal employees. There's 175,000 postal employees eligible for retirement right now. Nothing happens for the next 2 years. It gives plenty of time for planning. It gives him the authority to create that principle, which says that when you become retirement age, because they're going to have a continuing need to have fewer and fewer employees, the ability to make retirement mandatory. That's all it does. It is those that are best capable of retiring with full pensions. They have to be a complete and have full pension capability, and it will allow them to do that 2 years from now, not now, but 2 years, and it only gives them the authority should he want to. So it doesn't mandate it, it doesn't require it, and it actually doesn't take an effect for 2 years.
Madam President.
Senator from Maine.
Madam President, could we have order, please? I'm finding it difficult to hear the sponsors. Thank
Senate
you,
will be in
Madam
order.
President. Madam President, while I think that the changes that the Senator has made in his amendment do improve it considerably, I'm still very concerned about the idea of imposing a mandatory retirement system. And let me tell you why. One, to me, it smacks of age discrimination in some cases. Second, we could be losing some of our most experienced, best personnel that we need to implement the major changes that are authorized by this bill. And third, and finally, I find it a little odd that we would want to tell people who are still in their working years and have had a good career and are contributing and are good employees that we don't want them to work anymore. I think that the approach in our bill of offering incentives is a better way to go.
Madam President,
Senator from Oklahoma.
the difference is you're going to pay $25,000 to people to retire. The postmaster has already said that he needs to have 120,000 fewer employees. That will grow over a period of time. We're setting a precedent with the buyout, one. We are setting a precedent that's never before been done in the federal government. Number two, and probably more important, is the fact that...
The Senator's time has expired.
Thank you.
The question is on the amendment. Sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Baucus, Mr. Begich, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Boxer. Mr. Brown of Massachusetts. Mr. Brown of Ohio. Mr. Burr. Ms. Cantwell. Mr. Cardin. Mr. Carper. Mr. Casey. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. Mr. Coons. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo.
Mr. Dement. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Dement, Mr. Durbin, Mr. Enzi, Mrs. Feinstein, Mr. Franken, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mrs. Hagan, Mr. Harkin, Mr. Hatch, Mr. Heller, Mr. Hoven, Mrs. Hutchison, Mr. Inhofe, Mr. Inouye, Mr. Isaacson, Mr. Johans, Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, Mr. Kerry, Mr. Kirk, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Cole, Mr. Kyle, Ms. Landrieu, Mr. Lautenberg, Mr. Leahy, Mr. Lee, Mr. Levin, Mr. Lieberman, Mr. Lugar, Mr. Manchin, Mr. McCain, Mrs. McCaskill, Mr. McConnell, Mr. Menendez, Mr. Merkley, Ms. Mikulski, Mr. Moran, Ms. Murkowski, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Nelson of Nebraska, Mr. Nelson of Florida, Mr. Paul, Mr. Portman, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Reed of Rhode Island, Mr. Reed of Nevada, Mr. Risch, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. Rubio, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Sessions, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Snow, Ms. Stabenow, Mr. Tester, Mr. Thune, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Udall, Colorado, Mr. Udall of New Mexico, Mr. Vitter, Mr. Warner, Mr. Webb, Mr. Whitehouse,
We've inserted two things in that language. Tester's there now.
Mr. Wicker,
Tester. See, before the word postal, number 4.
Mr. Wyden,
The Postal Service. previously agreed to.
Senators voting in the affirmative: Alexander, Barrasso, Blunt, Burr, Chambliss, Coates, Coburn, Cochran, Cornyn, Crapo, Enzi, Graham, Hatch, Hutchison, Inhofe, Isaacson, Johans, Johnson of Wisconsin, Kyle, Lee, McCain, Moran, Paul, Risch, Roberts, Shelby, Thune, Toomey, Vitter. Senators voting in the negative: Akaka, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Brown of Ohio, Cantwell, Cardin, Carper, Casey, Conrad, Coons, Franken, Grassley, Hagan, Harkin, Heller, Hoven, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Cole, Lautenberg, Leahy, Levin, Lieberman, Lugar, Manchin, McCaskill, Menendez, Merkley, Mikulski, Nelson of Nebraska, Pryor, Reed of Rhode Island, Rockefeller, Rubio, Sanders, Schumer, Shaheen, Stabenow, Tester, Udall of Colorado, Udall of New Mexico, Warner, Webb, Whitehouse, Wyden. Mrs. Feinstein, Mrs. Feinstein, no. Mr. Portman, aye. Mr. Begich, no. Ms. Landrieu, no. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Sessions, aye. Mr. Corker, no. Ms. Snow, no. Mr. Baucus, no. Mr. Wicker, aye. Mr. Durbin, no. Mr. Nelson of Florida, no. Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Inouye, no. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Ms. Ayotte, no. Mr. McConnell, no. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Ms. Collins, no. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. I believe. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Reed of Nevada, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, no.
On this vote, are there any senators in the chamber wishing to vote or wishing to change their votes? Hearing none, on this vote, the yeas are 33, the nays are 65. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to.
Madam President.
Madam President. Senator from
Connecticut. A while back we skipped over the McCaskill-Merkley amendment because we were working on a modification. The modification is